Welcome to the View from the Top podcast. You're in for a good one today. Josh Helgeson, who's the CEO of Greiner Construction, is with us. And, I think it's so funny. We do so much work in the construction industry. And, there's this misconception that folks in construction are gruff and don't have feelings and don't, think about the human side of things. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And Josh is a perfect example of how that plays out in the construction industry, and just because of his background, but his openness to talk about the energy audits that he does to help him manage his own energy, the points in his story where it looked like he had it all together and behind the scenes was totally not managing his energy well and right, wasn't successful in his eyes. Self-leadership. And what does self-leadership mean? That ambition without alignment is not something you want to achieve. And so this conversation just filled my soul, and I hope it does yours as well. So stay tuned for the View from the Top podcast. Welcome to the View from the Top podcast. We're here to talk about success, but we're not here to talk about success in terms of being a highlight reel, that it's really easy to see all the positive points, because success requires a lot of blood, sweat, tears, whatever those moments are as you're climbing, a lot of bloody knuckles, whatever it takes to climb. So I'm excited to have Josh Helgeson with us. He's the CEO of Greiner Construction. He has an awesome story that I can't wait for you to hear, and a lot of wisdom from the top. I think it's hard for us sometimes, Josh, to be like, we're at the top, because it doesn't feel like it. We have so much more to do.
No, it does not.
But to the outside world, right? I mean, we're at the top, meaning we've achieved the whatever, it's the title or it's the, awards or whatever it is. But when you get to the top, it sometimes looks different than you thought it was going to look.
Yeah, it's definitely different, and kind of wanted just to throw this little statement out there. One thing, the climb, right? The climb, one of the hardest climbs in leadership in my mind isn't something everyone sees. They're the ones that are happening, internally. They really are. There's a time for me where on paper, everything looked fantastic, looked strong. My growth, my responsibility, momentum that I had, it couldn't be better, right? But behind those scenes, which people didn't see,
right,
I was carrying way more than I could manage, especially as a leader, especially at work where I sit, but not only there, but as a father, as a husband.
Yep.
Navigating those challenges at home. That required me to be present, right? And when I realized this, which I'm always realizing, and I don't think that stops, the pressure isn't what breaks you. It's the unmanaged pressure that does.
Oh, that's so good.
If that makes sense.
I totally makes sense. And I want to dive into that. But first, I want you to start with just give us a little bit of background, right? On your
my journey.
People who don't know you, it's powerful.
Well, I don't know. I tell the story in multiple different ways, and I could go on for hours about it. But I started 26 years ago at Greiner Construction. I was given a chance as an apprentice carpenter, not really knowing anything about the commercial construction industry, how steel studs were used, how drywall was used, how finishes were put in, none of the above. Greiner decided to sponsor me into the apprenticeship program. So I went through that program for, at the time, I think they try to get you out of there pretty quick nowadays, but mine was almost 4.5, 5 years in that program. So what happens there is your contractor has to sponsor you, get sponsored, and then you can get a job. So that's what happened. Those opportunities for me along the way, as I continued my career through Greiner, they were there. And there was no playbook for me when I started. Like, this is where you can go. This is what you can do. It was one of those things where my first 2 months on the job was putting nail holes in trim. That's what I did. And I thought to myself, is that something I'm going to do for the rest of my life as a carpenter? This is what carpenters do. So quickly, I put in my time there. I didn't complain about it. Some days were funner than others, I guess, if you want to use the word funner. But I got to learn some of the tricks of the trade and how to putty nail holes. Had anybody ever known? I didn't know that, but there are tricks to that make it easier, to make it more flawless. So those are the experiences that I still hold true to where I started, my roots, but I've taken those steps. Everything isn't going to be glorious along the way, but it's what you get out of that. But so my career transformed at Greiner, there were opportunities where I could jump into more of a leadership style position as a foreman. So leading and running work. And that's what I did. I took that next step as being a foreman. And after that was a superintendent for me. So I was ultimately running 3, 4, 5 different jobs at any one time. And then after that, like, what's next for me? And it was being ultimately in charge of the entire field at Greiner Construction. I managed 50, 60 men and women on a daily basis. So that was fun. I was involved with every project that we had going on, and put it in perspective. Greiner Construction, we do between 500 and 900,000 jobs a year. That's a lot for one person to be kind of overseeing. And then about 7-ish years ago, I had the opportunity to get into more of a leadership position at the company and ownership as well. So I purchased some of the company, and then this last 2 years ago, I purchased a majority of the company and became majority owner and CEO. So it's been a great 26 years, but the story is that those things weren't given to me. Those things were worked towards. There were things put in front of me that no one was going to say, hey, this is for you, or this, I'm going to hand this to you. It was something that I went out and got. So I kind of wrote my own book for it, is what you would say. But had you asked me 26 years ago if I would be running and leading this company, it wouldn't have been a thought in my mind. Right. Now I'm here. I'm still figuring it out. But it's been
that. Yeah. We all are. And when you think back through your, on that journey, what's something that people maybe wouldn't realize that you went through? Oh, because it's easy to just see he got there and it's like this great story. What's something people wouldn't realize?
Let's see. Something that they won't realize. It's trying to think what the best answer. It's just some of those things that you go through, as simple as it may seem, if that makes sense. Simple, like you see somebody do something and it looks easy at times, but there's so much more that goes into putting in a cabinet. It's not just putting in a cabinet. It's like, okay, is this the cabinet? Is this the right place for this cabinet? Does it match what's on the drawings? Does it have to be scribed to the floor to fit the floor? Is there a countertop that goes on this? Like, there's so many other things there.
So it's not as easy as HGTV makes it look, is what you're saying.
100% what I'm saying. It's not as easy as HGTV makes it look. There's so many more things that go into this. So but it's that preparedness and mindset that you have to get yourself into as a young kid coming into the industry. Like, you think you know a lot. You don't.
You don't know anything.
You don't.
Right. What do you think drove you in that moment, right? Having kids that are of college age myself, right? And looking at this next generation and hoping that there's a better world that they are going to be able to come into at some point. But like, what was it that you leaned on? Because it wasn't about the skill, because you could learn that. What was it that you leaned on through each of those kind of navigations of roles?
I leaned on, I want to say, I think this is the overall just experience and voices from the people that I've been around, being in my shoes, being at a point in their careers where they did start off at, I don't want to say the bottom, but they started off as a new green, say, apprentice or a carpenter, right? But being around the people that have made me who I am today, that's the thing.
It's the people around you.
It's that, I don't know what you want to call it, that you're kind of that nucleus, but everything that's falling around you and spinning around you, that's what makes you who you are.
And I think a lot of successful people can, think back to people throughout their lives. And that could be a high school basketball coach or, someone in their professional career that almost helped them see things in themselves that they didn't see.
Exactly.
You need other people to be like, wait a minute, like you have a strength here. And because you're just like, it's just how I am.
Yeah.
Right.
And I still think about that today, right? I was like, I enjoy that feedback. And I often question myself of, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? So I rely on, some of my other leadership team members, and I ask them those questions. One, I need the reassurance that I am doing something right, and I am doing what is expected of me. But I've joined peer groups and have got coaching for myself just to keep the confidence level in myself. Right. That's, I don't know. You see it, people see it on you when you wear those things, and to have the reassurance and again, those people around you telling you this stuff. I think it makes me a better human being, but in a leader.
You alluded earlier when we were chatting just about kind of that climb moment when everything looked great on the outside and, maybe behind the doors, it was like you were carrying burden. Talk more about that. Like, how did you navigate that? Because honestly, I think there's a lot of people in that right now. Yeah. And for different reasons. I think there's a lot of people carrying a lot of stuff they probably don't need to be carrying, but they don't know how to do anything different.
Yeah. And I think, to answer that question, your climb moment, I want to say that my climb moment wasn't when things were falling apart. And oftentimes I think people think that, right? Like, we need to get out of this. We need to climb. We need to rise. We need to do something different. So for me, that question, I thought about it long and hard. It's when actually things were working. My career momentum, the responsibility that I had, the growth. But at the same time too, it was carrying that weight that people couldn't see, right? Like I said before, especially at home with being a father, being a husband, those hard situations, but advocating for the family piece of it as well. I realized I was strong for everyone else, but not refueling myself. That was the wake up call for me. It still is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is a never ending journey
it's never ending story. I mean, it's happening all the time. So that's what I go back on. That's what I think about. It's not where those failures are.
How did you know something had to change? And what did you do in that moment? Because that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was the pace that I was running, right? It wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. And you could feel it.
I could handle the pressure.
Yeah.
I've always handled the pressure, right? But I had to ask myself if this is a strength or if it's a slow depletion of that. The breakthrough then came when I understood that leadership really isn't about taking on everything, right?
Controlling.
Managing, what do you want to say, that energy?
I want to pause and reiterate what you're saying here, because I think it's so important. And I hear so many leaders and I don't think they recognize those climb moments, those moments of realization something needs to change do not always happen when things are wrong. They happen when the pace is unsustainable or unhealthy.
Right.
And what typically happens is, and I've seen this time and time again, is a death in the family, a cancer diagnosis, another health issue, whatever it is, right, stops you and forces you. So we've all, read the books of the people who've been transformed because they went through something really dramatic in their lives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that will stop you and make you reassess everything. What I want is exactly what you're talking about, is how about we get to the leaders before everything falls apart,
right?
And we teach them the tools, right? Manage their own energy and take care of themselves before the health crisis happens.
Exactly.
Before those things happen.
Exactly.
So in that moment, I mean, it takes some courage to say this trajectory isn't working for me. Because your identity is tied to that trajectory now. Right? How did you wrestle with that identity, right? And wrestle with kind of the changes you needed to make and the risk of what that was going to do, I don't know, for your career or whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, the simple answer to that is just because the cost was starting to show up in subtle ways, right? I had less patience. Internally, the tension was at a highest level it could ever be. And I was operating in that constant go, 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 go mode, right?
Yes.
And then that's when I asked myself the question, what am I modeling as a leader, as a father, as a husband, as a man? That question changed everything.
You know, what's interesting? A couple of weeks ago, I was traveling and I got a call from one of our clients, a CEO, and he doesn't typically call me. And he called me once and I couldn't answer it. And I called me twice and I'm like, okay, something's going on. So I called him back and he's like, I don't know what to do. He was just like, I've never heard him like this. And he was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. And I was glad he called me. And he's telling me about all the things in the business and it's just piling on. And he's a new CEO. And, and I felt for him. He's a great human. And he got done with his 2-minute ramble. And I said, okay, take a deep breath. And I said, most important, how's your marriage? And he started crying. And he said, horrible, because I don't know how to shut it off. And I don't want this. And I'm sharing this to just be like, this is where people are at right now. And I'm so grateful to be the person from a business standpoint that could ask him how his marriage was, right? It stopped his thought process in that moment because it was all going to be about business.
Yep.
But it was not good because it was transferring. And that's the wake up that he needed. He's like, I need a coach. So I got him all the things he needed, right? But it was like, you need someone to stop that spin sometimes.
You do, and I put myself in the shoes of your friend as well. That's something that's real to me right now. I'm going through this and I'm going through this change, and this stuff is happening real time again for me. So I'm obviously very thankful that you've had me on this podcast, because it also gives me time to reflect and really dive into those areas that I really need to dive into right now.
Yeah. And this is, I love you keep saying this. This message is, you're never done. We're not on this podcast for the people who are listening because we have it figured out. We're just on this podcast because we're the ones that are willing to say, hey, I've been through it and I'm going through it again. Because I'll be honest, Josh, I'm going through it again right now. So I could sit here and say I'm an imposter, or I can say I've learned it and I probably need to rehear it again so that I can deal with what I'm going through now. Because there's no end to this, right? There's no end to it. It's about how do you build resiliency through it, not how you avoid the hard things happening. So as you've developed into the leader you are today, and I use leader loosely, it's in your families, in your communities, and in your business. Is there a belief or a mindset that you've had to shift, right? Or unlearn to be able to kind of sustain, doing what you're doing now? Because I think a lot of us as leaders hold on to some of those beliefs that were given to us, right? When we were young, and sometimes they don't fit us anymore when we get to this point.
Yeah. And I think, the definition of a leader is like people really have really different definitions of what that looks like. The hardest part of, the shifting piece of, I think you said identity, the piece of that, letting go of being the one who has carried it all.
I needed to hear that today.
That to me, that was what you did. There's pride in being dependable, right? There's pride in that.
Yes.
But the other thing, I think I read this somewhere too. I don't know if it was like this, but there's also wisdom in knowing your limits. So those two go together. The strength piece of it for me isn't this, I don't really want to say the silent suffering piece of it. Strength is clarity and control. That's where I look at as strength. So that would be the few things that made the shift for me.
I love it. How do you define success now versus 10 years ago or 20 years ago? How's that definition changed?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would say then success was output and the momentum piece of it. Now for me, and I have to remind myself of this often, again, going back, this is always happening. Success to me is alignment and endurance. I can win at work and still show up fully at home, right? I can build something that lasts, and I can lead without burning out. And that's success now.
It's so good. I'm reading a book called The Second Mountain. I'll talk about, Arthur Brooks, David Brooks, David Brooks, I think. And I'm in the middle of it, but it's really about that when you look at success, you kind of have two mountains. Most people have two mountains. You have one where it's about challenge and conquering, and you have one that's about surrender and legacy, right? And it just means something different. And I can relate, right? When that challenge and conquering, it's about output and the next thing, and being smarter and growing and a better title, and and you climb, and you get to the top, and you're like, yeah, that wasn't the fulfilling piece I was looking for, right? Yeah. And it's exactly what you're saying. Now it's about how do I sustain this and live a rich life without it having to be so much burn and great, why do I have to dig? I don't have to dig so deep for everything. Going forward. What's one thing that you value today that your past self didn't value as much as you do now, or at all?
I want to say I protect the white space. If that makes sense. Yep. I think I scheduled the recovery piece of it for myself. Mm-hmm. And I really slow down to think before reacting. I would say old me really filled every gap with productivity. Couldn't get enough. The new me really understands that using that reflection sharpens the way I show up and perform.
I mean, and science shows us, right, that we'll show up better as leaders if we do that. I think a lot of us as leaders think that someone else is going to create that space for us. And we have to create it. We have to put boundaries up and create it on our own, because you and I could attend 24 hours a day events and things that people want us to go to and things that everybody else wants from us. And if we don't put boundaries up, the white space never happens.
Never happens.
So what is something, what are the 2 to 3 or kind of the top, I would call them energy habits to manage your own energy that you've incorporated into your life now so that you can show up in the best way for your team?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, just in the morning, on the morning movement before, I guess, jumping on my phone, just having that normalcy, that routine. Obviously it's still working and always constantly trying to be better at it, but that clear transition between work and home. And then,
do you have any tricks there? I struggle.
I don't. I wish I did. You find something that works for a little bit, and then you end up having to tweak and change and switch. And you have a schedule for your week, but you know how those happen. They all get messed up. Your schedule in a day doesn't stay your schedule in a day. So it's super hard to plan and do that stuff. I'd make it a point to weekly kind of audit my energy, not just my time, but my energy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I take a look at that and just make sure that that's being spent where it needs to be spent.
Right.
You kind of manage it like an asset, kind of a sort of.
I love, on the retreats that I do, we do an energy audit. So I love this, yes, because it's about energy output, but also where are you getting energy back from? Because I think a lot of us, again, do things that we might expend energy, but there's no return of energy, right? Filling us up. And that could be people, right? Or that could be commitments, different things. And so you've got to look at it to say, what do I need to change? Can't wait for someone else to change it.
Yeah. And energy is a system, right? If one of the parts fail, the whole machine does. And that it does. It's definitely the truth. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, however you look at it.
Right. What do you wish someone had taught you or told you I'm going to call base camp, right? Before the climb. What do you wish you knew back then?
Let's see. I would say you don't get extra credit for exhaustion. You just don't. No professional.
Those of us who were the extra credit kids in school, I always wanted the extra credit. You're right.
Yeah. And the other piece of that is, no professional win replaces showing up well at home. That's one thing I wish someone would have told me when I was in my late teens, early 20s.
Because when you're in it, it's really hard to see that doing something different, right? Won't impede your whatever you're trying to achieve. So there's leaders that are listening right now, right? High achieving leaders that are at that point where you are at, right? Where they're like, I'm looking around, everything is good, but I'm not feeling inside something just feels disconnected. What would you recommend? What if they were listening and sitting in front of you right now? What would you tell them to do?
Well, a couple things. If you don't manage the energy piece of yourself, the ambition will manage it for you. And leadership ultimately starts with self-leadership. It really does. And then back to the ambition piece, it's the ambition without the alignment will also cost you. Yes. What they take away from that is probably different for everyone, but yes.
But that ambition without alignment, you need to do that regularly. Because even when you fix it for now, something, 6 months from now, it's going to get out of whack again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest message here is that just you have to keep working on this. Any kind of final words of encouragement before we jump into the bonus round, right? For leaders who are listening, navigating their own transformation, trying to navigate life as a human right now, I'll be honest, as a leader, it's hard. It's just hard some days. There's no other way to put it. What words of encouragement? How are you looking at where things are at right now? What hope do you have in kind of where our world is at and where business is at and everything? What keeps you going?
What keeps me going, I think the one word is change for me. How do I have an impact? How do I have an impact on changing the narrative that's really being written right now? And I truly believe it takes good people like ourselves and leaders together that are really going to make a difference. In the words of encouragement to some of these other leaders out there that are listening, if you're climbing right now, right? If you're climbing right now and it feels heavy, that's good. That means you actually care.
Oh, it's a great reminder.
You don't just climb harder though. You climb smarter.
You do the work.
You do the work.
And, the inner work that you're talking about, coaches and peer forums and right, all the other things, your energy habits, that inner work is something no one else is going to tell you have to do. The world's not going to tell you need to check that box. They're going to tell you all the other boxes you need to check. That's when you have to figure out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard sometimes to do the inner work.
Absolutely.
You get, for those of us who, or, we've been, I wouldn't say to the top, but like we've achieved things and you're like, man, the hardest part of that whole thing was looking inside and dealing with the things that I wasn't managing well and dealing with decisions that I made that were not the right decisions. And how do those sit? What do I learn from them? That idea of reflection. And you reminded me just so much of that growth doesn't happen in the, knowledge, getting the knowledge. It happens in the reflection and the application of the knowledge. And most of us don't do that piece.
Yeah. And I the climb's still there for me. I'm not at the top. I don't feel like I am at the top yet. And I think someday when I realize that, and hopefully I do, that'll scream success to me.
Right. If you've done it the right way, according to your rules, right? And your boundary.
Absolutely.
I think it's so important. So we'll make sure Josh's, contact information, LinkedIn, all of that kind of stuff for people who, might need this or just might want to kind of know what you're doing and follow you. I want to kind of, before we round it out here, I want to jump into some fun kind of bonus round questions.
Okay.
These are all just a kind of an uplifting way to end it. What's your go-to song when you need that your energy? What's that song you plug in and you're like, all right, in your car, let's go.
Believe it or not, it's Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. That's my thing. That gives me inspiration whenever I'm feeling that sense of, I don't know, let down, not happy in myself, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
With the heavy stuff that is happening in the world, it's that message that he has in there. If you want to make a difference, take a look at yourself and make the change. That's my song.
I love it. I just decided I'm going to make a playlist because I asked this question to everybody who's on here. And then I'm going to create a Spotify playlist that I can share out with every person. Great songs.
It'd be interesting to see what everybody chooses.
Yeah, right. What's a book or podcast that changed your perspective or continues to change your perspective?
Yeah, it's funny. I have it right here in front of me because I knew you may ask this question, but it's this book here.
Oh,
Good stuff. It's by Simon Sinek. It's a quick picture kind of read book, but together is better. Right. That's the book that I reference back to a lot of times. The best page in here is when we tell people to do their jobs, we get workers. When we trust people to get the job done, we get leaders. That's so true.
That's the kind of business we all want to be in. Right? To only a part of. It is so true. So Josh, I'm going to give you a billboard on 394 right out here, right? And I'm going to let you put whatever you want on it. What is the message that you would put on it right now for leaders to hear?
Protect your energy. Everyone you lead feels it.
What a great thing. Everyone's driving into the office, seeing that in the morning. This is so good. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for sharing so vulnerably and openly. When I do this podcast and when I re-envisioned the podcast, as people know, it was like, I just want to bring people on that are going to remind me of the things I probably already know. And then I need to put back in my life. And then everyone else just gets to listen. Yeah. So congratulations to everyone else who gets to listen to Coffee with Josh and Jaime. But, when leaders show up and we don't show up like we've got it all together and we have all the answers, because right now, any leader that's telling me they have all the answers is full of shit. It's not possible, right? We're leading in a world that is so complex. Yeah. We can't have all the answers. And so all we need to do is pay attention to who we're listening to. And you are a voice that people should be listening to. And I appreciate both inside and outside your company. And I appreciate you taking the time to share and have an impact to this podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you and the things that you're doing and getting people like myself on here to share some stories, to share some insight on those trials and errors and stuff that we all go through. And we're not alone. When they always say you're lonely at the top, you're not.
Right. You're not alone. No, and nobody, because we're all figuring this out together. And it is about community, and it's about building up the voices and the people around you to help you through that. So, and again, to the people that are listening, this is why I do this. Podcast is a lot of work, but it has a ton of impact for people that need to hear this message right now. So the best thing you can do for Josh and I is share this with somebody that needs to hear it. hopefully that's you, but it might be somebody else you've talked to. And that's how we spread our impact. That's how we create the ripple effect. So thanks everyone for being here and for listening.
Thank you.
Success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about what you discover once you're there. Here on View from the Top, we explore the stories, the setbacks, and the inner work that redefine what success really means. If this episode resonated with you, I'd encourage you to share it with someone who might need it right now. And to stay connected, make sure and subscribe so you get notified when we release new episodes. You can connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, or visit my website at JaimeTaets.com. All of the links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening to View from the Top. We'll see you at the top and beyond.